It's the latest viral craze, banning TikTok. Okay, well, not quite as fun as the Wednesday dance. Nonetheless, the US has followed the EU and Canada's lead, ordering federal government employees to delete TikTok from official devices within 30 days. Their concern? TikTok uses private data being funneled back to Chinese-based parent company ByteDance, which means the Chinese government can get at it courtesy of a 2017 law.
Its parent company is controlled by the Chinese government. The Chinese government has shown a willingness to steal Americans' data on a scale that dwarfs any other.
Naturally, China begs to differ.
As the world's top superpower, how unsure of itself can the US be to fear a young people's favourite app to such a degree?
Hold up. It may seem innocuous, but there are so many ways that foreign actors can make use of these little breadcrumbs that we leave. It's not just nuclear power plants and military facilities. It's food processing, it's pharmaceutical, it's banks, stock brokerages, it's educational facilities where there's sensitive research going on.
Despite all that, Jim Chalmers isn't fussed. At a personal level...
I'm not on TikTok. I'm not cool enough to be on TikTok.
...or at a national security level.
We'll take the advice of our national security agencies. That hasn't been the advice to date.
But that hasn't stopped federal departments such as Defence, Home Affairs and Agriculture from jumping on the TikTok deletion trend. So if the security concerns are legit, should any of us be ticking? Or talking, for that matter?
We'll look back in a number of years and say, wow, that was a really naive time where people just let their data go all over the place.
Well, tech futurist Chris Riddell's a lot of things, but he's not naive, and he joins us now. Chris, how serious is this really?
This is pretty serious. I mean, when we look at technology and how technology is being used around the world, we've seen recently also camera companies from Asia being pulled out of Australia. We look at what's happening now with TikTok in America. Technology and how it's used is a real threat to our intelligence and security around the world.
Chris, you worked with the AFP when they moved to ban Huawei. Why are we moving so slowly this time?
I think this is a little bit of a different situation. Back then, we were looking at hardware-based technology. So Huawei were are a telecoms manufacturer that make the cell sites that go around our country that we see in the road. So that was a real threat to our intelligence at the very core. What we're looking at here with TikTok, this is software. It's on our devices. There's a lot more ambiguity around it. It isn't in the very center of our infrastructure. So there's a lot of things at play here, but what's absolute is that this isn't going to go away, and we're going to see many, many more years of this ahead.
Yeah, so it's not going to go away, because right now this feels like it's a lot bigger than TikTok, right?
It is essentially. I mean, this is the tech Cold War. It's been playing out for a couple of years. It's been getting pretty messy as well. We saw it starting back in the day with Huawei. But essentially what we have now globally are two players, two teams in the world. We've got Team 1, which is the United States, and we've got Team 2, which is China. And these two are battling it out through their tech might that they have. In the US, we've got companies from Silicon Valley that are part of their team, and over on Team 2 in China, we've got all the companies from Guangzhou in China.
Just for context, Chris, I think people at home might not be aware that the Chinese government restricts its citizens under 18 to 45 minutes of TikTok a day, and that has to be all educational content. Now, in that light, it sounds like there's a very strong case for governments to restrict TikTok. Should individuals be wary as well?
I think you've got two things at play here. One is you've got the behavioural component of this. So when you look at social media apps, I mean, these are fundamentally tapping into the very deepest parts of us as human beings and our psyche. So that's one thing that we need to be very aware of, and what are we doing with that when we expose our children to technology? And then the second part of that is around security. What are these apps doing, or what is technology doing in our lives? So whether it be the speakers in our homes that are transmitting music to us wirelessly, or our smart light bulbs and smart air conditioning systems, these devices all send data back to the manufacturers. We call it calling home. So we have to be acutely aware of what our devices are doing, who's actually communicating with them, and how does that actually form part of the threat for our future of this country.
Chris, do you think people at home are aware that when they sign on to the terms and conditions of TikTok, that's allowing TikTok to harvest face recognition technology, voice recognition technology and keystroke elements. That's all of their data. Do you think people are actually reading the terms and conditions?
I mean, from the day that we had our first Atari games console to the world that we're in here now, I don't think anybody's ever read the terms and conditions on this stuff. I think the really important factors here are who's getting the data, what are they doing with it, and even more importantly than that on a global scale is how do we as citizens, how do we as people actually get that back? Can we get that back? If we can't, and it's with an entity that we can't control, then that is an absolute risk for us as individuals.
Especially if that entity is a foreign government. That may not be aligned with us, Chris.
Absolutely.
Understand. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Mads, that point you made about facial recognition technology, that TikTok, you sign up for that.
Yeah,
What-
it's in the
what does
terms
that
and
do?
conditions. And this is why it was interesting that Chris said that no one reads the terms and conditions. TikTok is relying on you not reading them.
Yeah.
Because one of the terms and conditions in TikTok is that they can change the terms and conditions whenever they want and not tell you. So every time you use the app, you have to reread the terms and conditions.
Right.
And in the terms and conditions, there's a license agreement which allows TikTok to license your data to any big business. Now, the way that I think of it is this, that a lot of us are working remotely now on personal devices, which leave us vulnerable to cyber attack. Now, how many of us here have not handed a device to a child just to keep them occupied?
Yeah.
Now, with one click, a child can activate a malicious app like TikTok, which will harvest personal data, facial recognition, voice recognition, keystroke. That's like when you enter your credit card to do a Coles Online order, harvest that information, and then that's sent back.
But talk me through the facial recognition bit. So I'm on TikTok, I look at a video, TikTok's looking at my face.
It's looking at your face. It's mapping data points on your face that reads your facial expression.
So if
it
I-
knows that it's Waleed. And if you look at something, say it's quite shocking content, and you go, it's going to send more of that content to you because it knows it's going to get a reaction, it's going to get more likes, it's going to get more looks. So if anyone at home has ever been sitting at a cafe with a friend talking about a new pair of shoes and then suddenly an ad for those shoes come up, that is what the software does.
Right.
It's harvesting your voice, the way you respond to the input that it's giving you, and it sends more and more and more and then licenses it to those companies so they send you an app.
So it manipulates your emotions and then sells everyone else the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Wow, it sounds like an artificial intelligence heckler.
It's terrifying. I just thought there was some funny videos on there.
Well,
Now,
yeah.